How is it going, everybody? This is Sean Barnes. I want to welcome you to episode 61 of The Way of the Wolf. On the show today, I'm going to be talking about the importance of empowering people on your team, but also staying involved. This is something that historically I've seen new leaders struggle with a little bit because there's a lot of content out there that talks you through the importance of empowering people on your team so that they buy in, they trust you, they respect you, and you give them the freedom to grow and build their team or build themselves in the best way they know how. This can be a challenge because it's important that as that employee or manager or team is starting to grow, that you're in tune, you understand what's going on in their head and where they're going. If you just give them free rein and say, hey, wipe your hands free and go get it done, it might not end up all that well. You may struggle with it a little bit because you as the senior leader are going to have insight into more of what's going on in the business. You're going to have a better understanding or hopefully a more holistic understanding of what's occurring. Today, I'm going to talk through 3 tips that I have found to be helpful for me and new leaders over the years. First tip is going to be scheduling regular updates. Now, this seems a little bit like a no-brainer, but it's probably one of the most important because what it does is it facilitates communication. It allows both parties to understand what's going on, or at least come to the table on a regular basis and talk through where their head is at, what's going on from their perspective, and then you're able to share what's going on from your perspective. Now, the cadence of these meetings is going to vary. You may have a big project that's nearing a deadline, and you might want to have daily updates, for example. Or if there's not a lot going on in the business at this point in time, maybe every 2 weeks would be sufficient. Just a quick check-in. Hey, what's going on? Nothing? All right, cool. Let me know if you need me. Second tip is going to be letting them decide. Now, this is a big piece of empowering this manager or director or VP or leader of a team. They have to know that ultimately it's their decision. It's their team. Now, you as the senior leader have to set guidelines or bumpers. If you think about this like a bowling alley and you've got bumpers on each side, you as a senior leader have to say, hey, here's your bumpers. You can do anything you want within this lane. This is your lane. Now, as leaders start to grow and they start to branch out into other lanes, that's something that we can talk about on another show. But whenever you have a new leader that's stepping up and growing and you're trying to empower them, make sure that you set those bumpers, that they know where their lane of operation is. And whenever you combine that with regular meetings or regular updates, it allows you to kind of just solidify and make sure they continue to understand where those bumpers are at. The big thing is going to be, or number 3, is going to be communication and feedback. This is one of also the more important aspects of this. Now, the regular meetings, that's going to help facilitate the communication, but the feedback is also very, very important. I talked about this on a previous episode, maybe 59, if I remember correctly. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, please go do so. But whenever you're talking to someone who's stepping into a leadership role and trying to provide feedback on what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, how they're handling a project, how they're building their team, you need to make sure that the two of you are aligned. And that's not always going to be the case, quite frankly. That's a good thing, actually. You just have to make sure that the trust exists between the two of you so that you can reconcile whatever differences in thought you might have and start working through it together. If a manager comes to me and says, hey, I want to do this, and I am adamantly against doing that thing, I need to make sure that I'm able to convey the why behind it. Say, that's actually a really bad idea, and here's why. And you talk them through it. You have to get them to understand your perspective. Now, the same thing could be said in the reverse. If you want to do something and they don't, the two of you have to kind of figure out how to reconcile that and work together. That's why trust is so important. The last thing that I'm going to touch on, this isn't really a tip, but just raising awareness. This whole process takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. I've worked with people, actually, as I think through my team today, I have some people that I've worked with for, almost a decade, and others that I've worked with for less than a year. The people that have worked with me for close to a decade kind of know where my head is at. They understand how I think, what my perspective or view is going to be on any given topic at any given time. And every now and then we might have to talk through something together. But for the most part, that time of us working together has made it very easy for the two of us to be on the same page. At the end of the day, when you start thinking through communication and trust and time, all of these things, they all kind of come together to create an environment where both parties know what's going on. And it makes it much easier over time for you to empower someone on your team and know and trust that they're going to be heading down the right path. All right, quick recap: scheduling your updates, empowering them, but staying in the loop, and then communication and feedback. 3 quick tips to help make sure as you step into that leadership role that you're working with those around you, those employees that are on your team, and making sure that you're all aligned and heading in the right direction. In closing, I have started doing a little bit more research and going to start including show notes on all of the shows, on the podcast platforms, on YouTube. These show notes are going to have timestamps for key information that's going to be most relevant. It'll have contact information for all of the guests that come on the show, and then also links to be able to purchase any books that we may talk about that any of the guests have written or that we just talk about on the show. That is all I have for today. It's going to be kind of a quick episode. I was just thinking about this. It was on my mind and wanted to get something out there for you guys. Thank you so much, and y'all have a good one.